So, Valkyrie Profile 1 is a role-playing Japanese video game developed by Tri-Ace and published by Enix, now Square Enix, for the PlayStation. It was released on December 22nd, 1999 in Japan and on August 29, 2000 in North America. Inspired by Norse, N-O-R-S-E, or just something that rhymes with horse, mythology, Valkyrie Profile follows the titular Valkyrie Lenneth as she travels through Midgard and collecting the souls of slain heroes to serve either as Einherjar and Herjar of her personal companions for Ragnarok, the battle to decide the fate of all creations, and trains them by fighting monsters and performing additional quests as she journeys. She learns more about her original human life removed from her memory upon becoming a Valkyrie. The game was both a commercial success and critical success. It sold over 700,000 copies, and critics praised its deep and complicated gameplay system and the plot. Valkyrie Profile sparked an enhanced port of the game, which was released on the PSP, PlayStation Portable in this case, 2006 under the name Valkyrie Profile Lenneth. It also led to other games in the Valkyrie Profile series. A 2006 PS2 prequel titled Valkyrie Profile Silmeria, Silmeria, released in 2006 in Japan and North America in 2007 in Europe, and another prequel titled Valkyrie Profile Covenant of the Plume. Released on the Nintendo DS in Japan in 2008 and March 17th in 2009 in North America, and on April 3rd, 2009 in the PAL regions. Now, what's really interesting about this game, the gameplay, is dungeon explorations plays more like a platform game than a typical role-playing video game, while Lenneth Valkyrie, with the only visible character and capable of jumping, sliding, swinging your sword, slashing, shooting ice cubes and crystals, can temporarily create temporary steps and freeze upon are used to solve many of the puzzles upon contact with unfrozen enemies. An RPG-style battle begins. The enemies are visible, and attacking them gives both Lenneth a tactical advantage and can also engage in battle by contacting with them. In this case, there's a 50% chance the enemies will have the first hit. It says traveling on the map occurs in a 3D person perspective, with Lenneth flying in the sky over Midgard. Pressing the start button allows her to perform a spiritual connection, which reveals new dungeons, cities, and towns, and recruitable characters, in this case, or again, Einherjar, the souls of deceased warriors. When entering a city or town, the game switches to a 2D profile view, and Lenneth will disguise herself as a human, allowing her to interact with the inhabitants without drawing attention to herself. Much of the game consists of Lenneth locating and recruiting new characters, with cutscenes and circumstances of their deaths, training them and determining if and when to send them to Valkyrie to fight alongside with Ishar. Character development for most of the characters consists of their death scenes, which are most common and dramatic and highly emotional and stepped upon symbolism and metaphors. The dialogues between them and the gods, or deities in this case, because there are goddesses too, while in the Valhalla, which each chapter requires Lenneth to send each one of the characters to the Valkyrie, or the Valhalla, with a maximum of 2 per chapter, preferably meeting a set of requirements outlined at the start of the chapter. This also makes the character that is sent unable to be selected again until the end game if they prove strong enough to survive, but the game compensates that with a large cast of 21 characters, some of which are exclusive to normal or even hard difficulty. The game is divided in 8 chapters, each with different quests, dungeons, and items available. Each chapter is further divided into periods, depending on the difficulty: 16 in easy, 24 in normal, and 20 in hard. Visiting towns, dungeons, and surviving and recruiting the characters uses up periods, requiring that the character budget their time wisely. Once the period in that character chapter are up, the sacred phase begins, and Lenneth returns to Asgard with Freya and updates her on the status of the war with the Vanir and the fate of her characters in the Valhalla. Each character has a hero value, a number of representing their combat strength and strength of a character, and Lenneth must send each character with the proper hero values and skills to survive in the Valhalla and keep Odin and Freya satisfied, not sending characters and opting to keep too many special artifacts required at the end of the game in dungeons will lower Lenneth's evaluation to 0, which triggers the worst possible ending. Convertingly offering sacrifice artifacts instead of keeping them and sending the characters. Then rewards, there's another number of bonuses in the titles of the Divide War in the Esser's favor. It increases Lenneth's evaluation, second to increase the number of material points that Freya grants during the sacred phase, which are agonalist to money as they are transmitted in items and powerful items and equipment. Finally, earns powerful artifacts from Odin, again the god himself. It also has a group experience system divided into the game active party members, but experience obtained from the bonus dungeons or the dungeon exploration event EXP, such as solving puzzles and complicating the dungeons, are banked into the division among the party system at the player's decisions. There are 3 difficulty levels: easy, normal, hard, with each character has a certain route. So there's 3 different routes rather. And it really gets complicated, but hard mode has everything. All the characters start from level 1 to compensate. There are more dungeons available and consequently follow more objectives that reward more event EXP. There are also 3 different endings. The B and C endings can be achieved in any video game level, but the A ending, which compensates the entire story, is only available with the compensation of certain tasks in normal and hard difficulties. Also, Sulfuric Gate is only fully accessible in hard. It says Valkyrie profile has a unique turn-based system. The 2 sides wage between alternate turns, with the whole party shaking on one turn and being able to attack simultaneously during the turn. Each enemy is given their own attack and do not combine attacks with one another. Each of the party members is assigned to do one of the buttons on the controller: triangle, circle, square, and cross, depending on where they're standing. Pressing the corresponding button on the player's turn offers the attack. Players have 3 specific attacks each turn. Throughout the weapon limits can limit how much they use. Mages cast their present offensive spells, which builds up their CT charge time. Replaces MP, decreases slowly on its own use, and prevents casting spells when above 0. While a mage's CT decreases, they cannot perform any actions while there are skills that allow to the exception of this. So again, like concentration, for example, allows them to maybe build it up faster. It's stringing attacks together produces combos that prevent a target from defending or recovering, yielding magic crystals and fire gems, increases the experience and reduces CT, again charge time. And add to the hit gauge. When a hit gauge reaches 100% in one turn, a player and character that participated in the combo that filled the hit gauge may perform a special attack, the Purified Weird Soul, that causes great damage and refills the hit gauge, possibly allowing another character to use their Purity Weird Soul. Using the Purity Weird Soul causes the C time to change, so characters must wait several turns before they can perform another one. Fighters have unique Pure Weird Soul. They just have either multi-hit versions of their selected spells or great magic. Elevated versions of their selected spells that strike all enemies. Only certain scepters allow for the great use of magic. Human forged great magic capable specters have a high chance of breaking with such use, and unbreakable either coded ones and are extremely rare. Damage is not capped, so the party may attack until the enemies have no more, and you may overkill them is what it refers to, rather than them being targeted to the total HP. So let's say an enemy has 850 HP, and let's say you don't kill him in one hit, but or one combo, you bring him down 37 health. Well, then if you have everybody attack him and he's the last enemy, you enter what is known as overkill. I think the Record of Agara series kind of does something similar, but in its own way.
But like it doesn't just stop at 37 health and then the battle ends. Even though you win either way, you can just rack up damage really fast.
So, it says at the beginning of each battle, Lenneth summons her party to the combat as it is needed to help them materialize. If Lenneth is defeated in combat, she must be revived within 3 turns, or the party will be defeated. Lenneth is also the only character who cannot be voluntarily removed from the game at any point. 6 weapon types are present: light sword, heavy sword, katana, lance, bow, and staff, corresponding to the 6 types of characters: light warrior, heavy warrior, samurai, lancer, archer, and mage. Most will only be able to equip their own specific weapon, and some of the weapons can only be used by light and heavy warriors and samurai, and only certain weapons allowed to perform all 3 of their attacks are in great magic. In the case of the mage, Lenneth is an exception. She can equip both swords and bows in her purified soul. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce this. Nibelun, Valesti. Something like that. Changes accordingly. Some attacks run the risk of breaking with each use. As for the characters, there are 24 playable characters in the game. However, some of them can only be obtained in hard mode. Lenneth is the primary protagonist. Again, good persons gets a Valkyrie profile. 1. A recently awakened warrior maid and the servant of Odin she dies in the mortal world, and then she wakes up in Odin's kingdom. Odin tells her that you need to serve, she has a choice to either serve him, and that she is worthy enough to fight alongside with him. And, you find out that, she's granted all these mythical powers in exchange. It's pretty cool. Again, put it this way, Valkyrie Profile is like probably the most important game in the entire Tri-Ace history, because while it is the most successful game that they've technically made, it's also worth noting that in the Valkyrie Profile trilogy, that if you're familiar with Star Ocean, Renaissance of Fate, and like all these other games that Tri-Ace has made, they all take place in the same universe. But like what's really interesting though is like Valkyrie Profile is like the heart, mind, and soul of everything that game represents, because it talks about the deities that technically created like all those games, like the Star Ocean. So like for example in Star Ocean 1 they talk about like the gods and all that. They're also referring to Valkyrie Profile, like Norse mythology. So that's what's really cool. Another cool example. It says who was tasked with recruiting the heroes to fight with Azure in the war against Vanir and prevent the destruction of Asgard and Ragnarok. Lenneth is one of the 3 goddesses of Fae, and the 2 other being her sisters, which are Hirce, and Silmera. The 3 apparently share the same body, though only one is awakened at the time and can be distinguished by their hair color and armor. Loki is revealed to be the final antagonist of Valkyrie Profile. He's half Azure and half Vanir by blood. Though he has been accepted by the Azure, he is not completely trusted by either side. Odin and Freya seal his power, so he remains a younger version of himself. He seeks the power of the 4 treasures, which will give him the power to challenge Odin. So essentially what happens is Odin is, again, if you've ever seen Marvel, Thor, his brother, Loki. Not really sure if that's his stepbrother, because again, they're not accepted as true. But anyways, it says in the story of, Coriander, a 14-year-old girl by the name of Platina lives with her cruel parents. The village falls upon hard times, and her friend Lucian finds out that her parents are going to sell her into slavery. The 2 run away, but Platina inhales the toxic pollens of the poisonous flowers in a nearby field and dies in Lucian's arms. Valkyrie Profile, Lenneth Valkyrie awakens in Asgard and is tasked by the god Odin and goddess Freya with resurrecting the characters on their way with the Vanir and the coming of Ragnarok. Her first recruits are the princess Jalanda and mercenary Arngrim. After the arrogant Arngrim inadvertently embarrasses her father, Jolanda plots revenge but is kidnapped by a traitorous court minister and transformed into a monster. Lenneth helps Arngrim kill the monster and claims Jolanda as a character. Arngrim, having unknowingly aided Jolanda's captures, kills the man responsible, then commits suicide rather than be arrested at Jolanda's request. Lenneth makes Arngrim in a character, but Odin and Freya find him lacking the qualities of a character and refuse to accept him into Valkyrie, so Arngrim remains at Lenneth's side. And during Lenneth's travels, she meets Brahms, the Lord of the Undead and leader of an enemy of Odin, who possesses her sister Silmera due to circumstances explained in Valkyrie profile 2. Silmeria, and the necromancer Lizard Belith, who lures her to his tower. Lenneth learns that the Lizard has been experimenting with half-elven homunculi to use as vessels to obtain godhood. Lizard wants Lenneth for himself, but she refuses to cooperate and destroys his experiments, and the sorceress Mithtina, one of the Lizard's rivals, discovers what she has been doing and remains harmonious when she discovers her theft. Lizard freezes her body while she is sleeping, and Lenneth recruits her, though Odin and Freya refuse to accept into Valkyrie like Arngrim. She remains with Valkyrie. So that's interesting. It says release. Several improvements were made to the English version of Valkyrie profile, including more cinematics and like cutscenes and the ability to adjust all the characters' armors instead of just the active parties, as well as being informed when changing Lenneth's weapon from the sword to bow. Some edits occurred during the translation, but visible blood drinking and sexual contacts remain. Barach's smoking was cut out, but the animation of him smoking after a successful battle, minus the cigarette. It's kind of funny how that works. It says Valkyrie profile Lenneth is the PlayStation Portable PSP port of the original, but it was kind of censored and dubbed down. TOSC, and the same company that made Star Ocean, Tri-Ace and TOSC, and published by Square Enix in 2006. The port is of the Japanese version, PlayStation PSX PS1 version, and does not have any gameplay improvements or changes that were made to the original English version, though the additional cinematics in the English version are best intact. So maybe they did change some stuff then. I don't know, like maybe from different versions, but like as far as the English like the English version that was made on the PS1 and then ported over to the PSP, that was like the same one, has been added to story events in the game and replaces all the original anime scenes. It says Lizard Belith teleportation circles was changed from a pink pentagram to a purple circle, although this was left unchanged in the PSP port. The names of the Frey, so F-R-E-I, Frey, the elder sister, and Freya, the younger, were reversed from Norse mythology and from the Japanese version, although in the former, Frey is the elder brother. The English version of Valkyrie or Lenneth uses an enhanced port of the original games as localization, reuses the original English artwork over the original voice track. Square Enix cleaned up the original game's English script, and additional voiceovers and dialogue and CGI videos were recorded by new generation pictures rather than the original company TAJ Productions. Reputations, game rankings gave it an 83% out of 100. Metacritic gave it a 1 out of 100. Let's see, in Japanese, there's a website called Famitsu, and they gave it a 35 out of 40. GameSpot gave it a 7 out of 10, and IGN gave it a 9.1 out of 10. It says Valkyrie Profile sold over 310,000 copies in Japan by the end of 1999. As of September 2005, the PS1 version of Valkyrie Profile sold over 709,000 copies worldwide, of which 636,000 units were sold in Japan alone. Japanese Game Chart reports that 168,515 copies of Valkyrie Profile Lenneth have been sold in Japan as of November 2008. Square Enix lists that the PSP re-release that sold 60,000 copies of board as soon as 2007. Valkyrie Profile was well received by critics with an 84 review. The game says it's not like... It says, and heavily praised by the plot and writing and characterizations due to the positive review scores and relative rarity of the game. Used copies of the game go for like $90 in it. But what's funny though is you can get the Japanese black label version for $5 off Amazon. And I mean, I know the game's completely in Japanese and there's a lot of text, but if you're really good with Japanese, believe me, you'd save a lot of money. The PSP re-release Valkyrie Profile was also received by critics with an 81 score, and Metacritic gave it an 80. Says, so I recommend just getting the PSP version if you don't. But yeah, I personally would give it a 10 out of 10. I mean, I don't judge games like the same, but you know, based on score reviews. But I'm going to say right now, the game deserves a lot of exploration. It says the developers were Tri-Ace, publishers were PlayStation NX, PlayStation Port was Square Enix. It says designers were Yoshinori Yamagichi, and then there was Yoshiharu Gota Enda. And then there's Masaki Norimoto, artists are Ko Yoshi Nari and Yoshi Nari. I'm not sure if those are brothers or sisters. Sounds like Masaki Norimoto was the writer. Composer, again this is a familiar one, Motoi Sakuraba, the same guy that composed Golden Sun, Tales series, the Star Ocean series. You know, he's all over the place. It says platforms, PlayStation, PlayStation Portable. It says release dates in Japanese, December 22nd, 1999. North America, August 29, 2000. PlayStation Portable, Japan, March 2, 2006. North America, July 18, 2006. Europe, April 27th, 2007, which was only a week ago, which was like, wow, 10 years ago since it came out. And then Australia on May 3rd, 2007. Ooh. Say the 3rd? Is today the 3rd? No, today is May 2nd. So tomorrow will be the 10th anniversary that the PSP version came out in Australia. How do you like that? Anyways, so I personally think the game is really good. It's well written, the story's awesome, the controls are awesome. It's kind of like Castlevania, Metroid, sort of like, you know, you just go into these areas and they're like really well, I mean, there's a lot of time and effort that was put into these games. I mean, you could tell, like, because there's just, you just don't put this together and boom, you're done. No, this is something that took a long time to do, and the people who wrote this obviously tried to do something that was far greater than what a lot of games can really be considered. So, if you never played this game, I highly recommend it. It's a great game. Definitely one of the greatest out there. So, if you haven't played it, go get it. Like, seriously, right now. And stay tuned for more. I will be reviewing the other Valkyrie Profile games and their histories, but that's just to give you an example of why Valkyrie Profile is so expensive and why it's such a great game. So, hope you enjoyed it. Comment, rate, subscribe, favorite, share this video, and if you have any questions about anything, requests, please let me know. I will see you all later.
Later, everybody. Later, everybody.